Turn the recording on. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome. It's where I'm sitting. It's Monday, March 28th, 2022. And this is Jim Mansky with our monthly support meeting for folks on the certification journey. And I'm feeling happy to see you all here. I'm excited about the topic, which is resilience in times of uncertainty. And I like the topic because I like it because it reminded me of my own strategies for resilience that I count on and that I sometimes forget. So it brought them all back to mind. And so it's been a great month. I think this is the fourth or the fifth time that I've taught this material. And so it's really deep in me at the moment. And I'm really glad. I hope you will all teach this. Anything that you find valuable here, I hope you teach it to your participants and to your fellow pod mates in your certification pods. That's one of my dreams, is that whatever we learn together here gets shared. So anything that I offer, including the recording that you'll get access to later, and handouts and PowerPoints, anything that we create together, I'm happy for you to share it any way that you would like. The plan today is to, mostly it's a lot of practice of these resilient strategies, and then talking about it in small groups, and practice again, and talk about it in small groups. So not much content, a little bit of content, just to give a little background on how these practices work and where I learned them, and to acknowledge the sources. So let's begin with the first one, which I learned from my son, who is a practitioner of something called organic intelligence. So this particular strategy comes from a different source, but it so dovetails beautifully with some of the NVC skills, especially presence and observing. And some of you who have been with me before have probably experienced this strategy. It's a very simple, immediate support for the nervous system. It's called orientation. Orientation, and basically it is a way to acknowledge your nervous system and how it is in the moment, and then to help you to see whether you're in a safe place. And so you don't have to close your eyes, at least during the first part of the exercise. In fact, it's good to have your eyes open, and you just look around. It's as simple as looking around, letting your eyes go wherever they want to go, rather than you telling your eyes or directing your eyes where to go. You just relax. Relax your body and trust your nervous system to look around wherever it wants to look. It supports your nervous system in knowing that you're in a safe place. And if you're not, then leave and go to a safe place. We'll connect another time, but I'm imagining you wouldn't be here unless you already had a sense of safety. And then as you look around and let your eyes go wherever they want to go, notice 5 items, 5 objects, and just name them. So for example, coffee cup, microphone, mouse. Do that with 5 objects. And if you would like to close your eyes for the rest of the exercise, you can do that. It's not required, but it makes it a little easier. And then listen. Now your nervous system is just attuning itself to the sounds in your environment. And then notice and name 4 specific sounds. And then shift your attention to texture, the sense of touch. And just notice what your body is attuned to in terms of your sense of touch. You can feel free to move your hands or your feet to explore different textures, temperatures. And as you do that, notice and name 3 specific objects that you're touching. And then shifting attention one more time to the sense of smell. Paying attention, noticing aromas, fragrances, smells. And see if it's possible for you to notice and name 2 distinct smells. And again, you're free to move your body, your head, in order to make that easier. And then shift again to taste. And notice that even though you might not be eating anything at the moment, there's still the sense of taste in your mouth. And name the taste for yourself. And finally, notice that you're also probably thinking. Thinking might show up as talking to yourself or images, some other way. Just notice that. And finally, open your eyes again and look around. Do the looking around exercise again. Attune to your body. Notice how your body feels. See if there's any requests coming up for your body. And gonna open up little breakout rooms so you can check in with each other about what this exercise was like, get to know some new people maybe. So we'll do this for about nine minutes or so. Everybody have a couple minutes, 2 or 3 minutes to check in. And let's see here. I just see a request to remove. I need to make a new room for folks. If you don't want to do this, you can just let me know by putting equals in front of your name. That's where, let's see here. Add a room. And okay. So see you all in 9 minutes.
Suddenly we saw that the building we were working in was being leased out, and then they put all our stuff in boxes
I see.
and
Well,
moved us to a new building. That's it.
I'm glad you're here. All right, welcome back, everybody. Anybody want to share anything in the large group before we take the next step? Anything you need to say to check in? Sorry, I missed your request, Majida. Anybody have anything you'd like to say here?
I will quick, Jim. So I don't know if I've experienced this before, but just kind of that settling and getting present and calm. Yeah, almost a little bit of panic with that. And I think possibly based on like waking up a little bit. I don't even know what to describe it, but then just distracting myself all day till now. Yeah. So it was nice to stretch and get comfortable and go get a glass of water and like all the things I've been just like, because I've been so not present, I had no idea
Yeah.
like anything around me.
Yeah. So you tuned in, you helped yourself to tune into your body's needs, and then you took care of yourself.
Yeah, but it's a little embarrassing to not go be connected the way. Yeah, I noticed that shame spiral a little bit, but it's like, no, I would really like to be present the rest of this class. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Maybe in case it helps, some because orienting, I don't know how it's taught in organic intelligence, but I only know how it's taught in somatic experiencing. And something that they usually emphasize that can help, just if people want to try, is when you move your eyes, allow your head to move with your eyes. Like, don't just move allow your head to move slowly to accompany the eyes. And I shared this in the group, but it's common for people to really enjoy looking under the desk, for example, or in like corners or things like that.
Yeah.
So you may also try that. So those are two, tips that people may find interesting to try.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm really glad for those tips. Yeah. I usually say something about looking under the desk because I notice that's what I do. And but I really like the coaching to let your head accompany your eyes. I even love the way you said that. It kind of plants that seed of accompaniment. Thanks, Gonzalo. Anybody else?
I would like to share that this exercise helped me a lot to regulate my nervous system. Yes, I asked empathy to Gonzalo before the session, the class, and I was a bit better, but then the meditation helped me a lot. Not the meditation, the exercise. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Great. Anybody else? Okay. I'm going to share my screen with you then. And so, as I mentioned, I learned this from my son Jiva, who learned it from his teacher, Steve Hoskinson, who's the founder of Organic Intelligence. And I believe Steve comes from the tradition that Gonzalo mentioned of somatic experiencing. And so, yeah. And what I like about orientation is that it's totally portable and instantaneous in my experience. And you can use it like when you're offering empathy to someone, or when you just find that your own nervous system goes on tilt, on high alert, or something like that. It's just for me, it has an immediate grounding effect, and then from there I can tune in and choose what need I want to contribute to next. Do I want to go back into the empathy? Do I want to go stretch? Do I what's alive now? So it's just a way of settling and supporting focus on the needs that are alive. And the other day, Jory and I were sitting on our porch, which is up on the second floor of our house, and it overlooks the jungle. And we saw our cat walking across the yard. And she's a little old lady. She's about 16 years old. And she would walk 5 steps, stop, and look around. She would walk 3 steps, stop, and look around. And she'd walk another 5 steps. And so she was actually doing what we just did. And I imagine this happens all the time. Sometimes I'll have a connection with a lizard in the yard, and the lizard is doing the same thing. So this is very deep in our nervous system as a way of making sure that we're in a safe place. And obviously we're the descendants of the survivors, the ones who were really good at looking around and not making sure that they didn't get eaten by saber-toothed tigers or bears or snakes or whatever. And so it's a very, very valuable tool. And I'm so grateful that whoever caught this and then made it, humanized it so that we can practice it. Gonzalo, do you know the actual source where it originally came from?
I think so, yeah. So I think it does come from Peter Levine, the guy who kind of created somatic experiencing. And it has to do, because in somatic experiencing, we work with different orientation responses that are associated with different levels of activation. And when you're in a regulated state, which would correspond in polyvagal theory as ventral vagal, you animals, right, wild animals, naturally do this kind of orientation, right, the thing. When there's a sense of danger, not confirmed danger, but there's a sense of danger, it immediately shifts, becomes much more focused in the direction of where we think the danger is. So it's kind of a way to reconnect with that regulated orientation response that wild animals naturally do when they're regulated. But I think it's Peter Levine, yes.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. That's why I figured as soon as that you mentioned somatic experiencing and that you were familiar with it, I know that Steve Hoskinson used to be associated quite closely with Peter. So I imagined that's where it came from. I'm really appreciating the confirmation. And welcome, Roger. Glad you're here. So going back to here, the next thing that I wanted to share with you all is this magic number, 3 to 1. Um, Anybody know what I might be talking about here?
I have a guess. Correct me if not, if it's not correct. It's the only reference I have is a workshop of the couples that strive. They have 3 good experiences for each challenging experience. So I guess it's about thriving.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And so this I learned about this particular ratio from a researcher named Barbara Fredrickson, and she's at the University of North Carolina and Chapel Hill in the United States. And she has the really cool job of studying positive emotions, what I like to call life affirming emotions like joy, inspiration, gratitude, love, and so forth. And in her research, she discovered that this ratio of 3 life affirming emotions for every negative emotion supports resilience and thriving. Thriving just means that you've moved beyond survival and are living in abundance, the abundance of being able to have enough energy to then be able to contribute to the world in whatever way that you would like. Our bias, in my experience, is we look for the one. We have a negativity bias, so we tend to look for what's missing. And so by shifting our attention to what's available in terms of the 3 to 1, almost always we can find 3 things to feel grateful for if we need to, and it helps again to regulate the nervous system. And all of these exercises that we're going to be experimenting with today are designed to move us towards more of this 3 to 1 ratio. The average for humanity, according to Barbara, is 2 to 1. That's kind of the normal survival mode, is 2 positives for every negative, which is surprising for some people to understand. It was for me. I thought that that it would be more like 1 to 1. But 1 to 1, Barbara calls depression. So if we actually have an equal amount of positivity and negativity, we will start moving into a spiral of shame, depression, and so forth. And so what I love about NVC, nonviolent communication, is that it has, in one way of looking at it, it has the 3 to 1 ratio built into it. Because if you think about it, we're usually move towards utilizing NVC in the presence of pain. Something is painful, some painful emotion is alive in us, and that's the 1. And then maybe we orient to the observation. Well, that's now we're at 1 to 1. And then maybe we connect the painful feeling to a need, and needs by their nature are positive. So that's 2. And then we may think of a request that might fulfill the need, something that might contribute to the need. And that's requests by their nature are also positive. So there's 3 to 1 built right into nonviolent communication. So somehow at some deep level, I imagine Marshall intuited the power of this particular ratio. So I wanted to stop here and see if there's anybody that has anything you'd like to share about that.
For some reason, when I remember you teaching me this the first time, I thought it was 5 to 1, but I'm looking and it is 3 to 1 for Barbara Fredericks.
Yeah. Thanks, Eric, for pointing that out. The ratio, the more complex the system, the more positivity that you need to inject into the system in order for the system to thrive. So if you are in a relationship, according to the work of John Gottman and his team, including his wife, whose name escapes me at the moment, I'm embarrassed. They've discovered that for relationships to thrive, you need 4 to 1. 4 to 1. And then another researcher who focuses on business and organizations, he discovered that for a business to thrive requires 5 to 1 or more, 5 or 6 to 1 or more. So thanks for bringing that up, Eric. Gave me a chance to say something
Thanks.
that I hadn't planned to say. Anybody else?
Yeah,
Okay.
so probably a village, sorry, a village would be 5 to 1, maybe.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, or an online community, or any place that has that complexity. And otherwise, we end up going into we lose our resourcefulness. And when we're less than resourceful, we don't handle conflict as well. Conflict will arise even in the presence of 5 to 1, but we have the resources available to handle it. Okay, so let's look at the other, let's go to the next slide, which are the 3 other strategies I want to take some time to talk about today. And each of these pictures kind of is an anchor for the 3 other exercises that I want to touch on. And the first one is the surfing. And so this particular exercise, I'm calling it Surfing Feelings and Needs. And it's inspired, of course, by Marshall and also by the Buddhist teacher Pema Chodron. I discovered both Marshall and Pema at almost the same moment. So they're kind of paired in my growth experience. This was about 20 years ago. I met Marshall in November of 2000. And then I think I connected with Pema a few months later, right after 9/11. And I saw, I was somewhere and I saw that she had a book called Comfortable with Uncertainty. And so I grabbed that book because things were very, very uncertain after 9/11. And so I was needing lots of support, and that book provided it. And as I dove into Pema's work, eventually I discovered something called Tonglen, which is what we're going to talk about in just a moment. But first, I want to just read this quote from Marshall, because this is a resilient strategy that you can use anytime, but it's especially, in my experience, perfect for empathy when I'm listening to another person. It gives me something to do that supports my presence, space, and focus, and helps me to count to 1,000,000 before I open my mouth. So this quote from Marshall, I'm just going to read it for the recording. Empathy, I would say, is presence, pure presence to what is alive in a person at this moment, bringing nothing in from the past. If you surf, you'd be better at empathy because you will have built into your body what it is about, being present and getting in with the energy that is coming through you in the present. It is not a mental understanding. In empathy, you don't speak at all. You speak with the eyes. You speak with the body. If you say any words at all, it's because you're not sure you are with the person. So you may say some words, but the words are not empathy. Empathy is when the other person feels the connection with what's alive in you. So the practice goes like this. In a moment, I'm going to invite you to go into kind of a contemplative or meditative state. We'll start with orientation again. And then I'm going to invite you to probably stretch your capacity. just a little bit. And then if you find yourself getting overwhelmed or swamped, or even you're feeling like you might be moving in that direction, then stop and orient again. So it's fine to in organic intelligence and probably in somatic experience, they call it oscillation. It's fine to surf your own internal experience as you do the exercise. And so, unless there's anything that anybody wants to say before we start, we'll go ahead and start. It'll probably take about 6 or 7 minutes of like meditation, just so you get a taste of it. Okay, so we start with what Jory and I nicknamed the 0 step, which is getting clear on your intention for doing the exercise. Why do you want to do this? What needs are you hoping to meet? And then to open your eyes and allow your eyes and your head to look around in order to support presence. And then when you're ready, you can close your eyes. And bring to mind a mildly painful conflict involving another person. Maybe it's something that you've already repaired, or something that you think you're pretty close to being ready to repair. So bring to mind this conflict. And imagine that this other person that you're involved in the conflict with is sitting in front of you, and that you're listening to them. And as they express their pain about the conflict, imagine that you can breathe in their pain. So if they say they're feeling sad, then you imagine that you can breathe in their pain. And then on the out breath, breathe out what need you're guessing is alive in them. And then you surf those feelings and needs as you continue to listen to the other person. So for example, the other day, Jory and I were in a conflict, and I heard her say something like she was feeling frustrated. So I breathe in frustration, then I breathe out ease. Breathe in frustration, breathe out ease. And I continue to listen. So now I'll be quiet for just a few minutes while you just do this in your own imagination, breathing in the other person's pain, or even your own pain. If your own pain gets awakened, breathe in your pain and breathe out the need. If you find yourself going over your own threshold of comfort, you can always just open your eyes and orient. and then choose whether or not you want to come back to the exercise. But just continue surfing if you're able to. And then you can add something to the need. So you breathe in the pain, connect it to a need, and then breathe out the fulfillment of the need, like a wish that that person and that all beings can get that need fulfilled in a reliable and abundant way. Breathing in pain, breathing out a fulfilled need, a satisfied need. You can also surf from empathy to self-empathy if necessary. Breathing in pain, breathing out the need. If you become aware of a shift in the other person, perhaps they're shifting to gratitude or peace or some other feeling that's not painful, breathe that in. Breathe in that feeling. Connect it to a need. Breathe out the need. Whatever you're sensing in the emotional experience of the other person, breathe that in. Surf it. Pema calls it riding the breath. About one more minute. Okay, and open your eyes when you're ready and do a little orientation if you'd like. And it makes sense to me to go back to small groups to share your experience again for about 10 minutes. Majida, do you want to go to small groups this time or do you want to stay here? And Jen, I want to know if you changed your mind as well.
Yeah, I'm skipping small groups today. Thank you.
Skipping, okay.
Me too, yeah. Thank you for asking.
And Eric, I see you're a no. Okay. So let's go ahead and open up the small groups. And so be one group of two groups of three. See you back here in about 10 minutes. Great. So I'd love to hear some feedback about this particular exercise and how it lands for you.
Jim, I want maybe to talk first because I'm feeling a bit anxious still, although Xenia and Sylvie, they really helped me in the breakout room. But it went over my capacity, and when I noticed, it was too late already.
Mhm.
And the idea that I have for myself of what empathy is not blending in the person's pain or emotions, and this breathing in the person's pain automatically took me to dissolving with the person. And it was so powerful that it took my breath away. I couldn't breathe until Sylvia and Xenia talked to me. And so this is my feedback about this exercise. That's how it felt to me.
Mhm. Yeah, sounds pretty intense.
Mhm.
And how about right now?
I feel better. I feel better. I can breathe again.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're noticing some shift right now, feeling maybe
Yeah.
more calm or
Yes. Yes. In the end of the time, like when our breakout room was about to end, I already felt calmer, and that I can breathe again. And I'll sharing how the experience was, especially to you. It also helps me to relax a bit more.
Mhm. Yeah.
Thank you.
Is there
I'm
more that you'd
complete.
like to be heard about maybe even shifting to your left brain a little bit and talking about how your understanding of empathy might be different, or is there something you would like to be understood about?
Thanks for offering this opportunity. It's an edge for me because so just to give some reference, I facilitate one workshop or peer support group every day of the week. I facilitate 5 groups now, and often these groups, uh, I celebrate that they are working so well and people are feeling so safe that they go to really deep layers, you know. And my edge is managing the limited time we have, at the same time not giving into their feelings,
Hmm.
and trying to still show care and appreciation and try to meet as many needs as possible in the whole group, not only from that one person.
Yeah.
And I super struggle with saying no, and kind of putting some boundaries there. And in this exercise about breathing in the person's pain, it's so scary for me, and I feel so unsafe because I can imagine myself in these situations that have been happening like twice or 3 times a week during these workshops and peer support groups, that I need to do the opposite, not to blend in, but to offer to a balance of empathy and skills, practicing the workshops and peer support, meeting as many needs as possible. And so I don't want to breathe in people's pain.
Yeah. Yeah. You really want to have a secure boundary between their pain and
Yeah,
your experience.
yeah. I noticed that I function better if I don't take their pain to me,
Hmm.
and I am able to give them higher quality empathy and and give voice to what's truly alive if I don't dissolve with their emotions.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense to me. I have a way that you might consider modifying this exercise for you, and other people could have this as a modification. Would you like to hear it?
Of course, please.
Yeah. So honor that boundary, of course, and stay attuned to your own feelings. And if you notice your own pain coming up, then just support that presence by being more willing to experience and breathe in your own pain, connect to your own need, and then breathe that out to the other person because they have the same need as you. So if you're needing, to protect your boundary, for example, then maybe you breathe out protection. And so the only way you're breaching the boundary is as a gift that you're giving rather than taking in anything that you don't want. Does that make any sense?
Ah, yes, that makes total sense. It's what I've been longing for. It's where I want to. It's the direction that I want to develop this side of practicing and sharing NVC.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for bringing it up because I really want people to be able to make anything that we offer here your own and not to think that there's some right way of doing it or something like that. I really appreciate your feedback. How do you feel hearing that?
How what?
How do you feel hearing that my feedback to you? My appreciation.
Yeah, it feels great. It feels relieving, and always when there is an NVC celebrity facilitating the workshops, it's always a bit thrilling, to give a feedback that is shows disagreement.
Yeah,
And it's really relieving to hear this from you.
I'm glad.
And it serves me as an example as well.
I'm glad. I'm glad because if it was alive in you, it's really highly likely that it was alive in somebody else.
Mhm.
And you're the one who found the resources to be able to speak up, especially in the presence of what might be perceived of as authority. So I'm really, really grateful that you modeled that for us.
Well, this is a big it is very insightful for me, Jim. Thank you. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Karimar?
For me, the exercise was beautiful, and especially the part where I would wish the other person, like I would breathe out the need with a wish. That was like my body made like, like just an experience of relax and just letting, I don't know, yeah, I guess very relaxing to my body. And it brought to mind the difficulty of like one of my biggest edges on MVC since I started was the ability to be present with the other when the other is judging me or criticizing me. And I remember at the beginning, I was trying to force myself to be with the other person. And I remember a particular moment when my partner had a lot of judgments against myself. And I was not trying to run away because that's my first reaction, always run away. And I was just there forcing myself against the door, not trying to run away and to be able to be present with my partner and trying to listen and trying to hear his feelings and needs. But that was too painful. And then I discovered self-empathy. And now it's like, okay, that's different because now I will go away, but not as a reaction, but not only as a reaction, but this time is to be able to be with my own pain first and with my own wounds. And what's interesting for me about this is that's a reminder that when I breathe in the the feeling of the other person. This time is like, this is not my pain, and this is not caused by me. Because usually when I react, it's because I'm feeling I'm guilty, that I'm creating the other person's feelings. But this time is like a reminder, this is not mine, this is his pain. And I'm surfing on it in a way, on his pain, and having the ability to be with that pain and accepting that is there. And this is not mine, it's his pain. And also that is because of his needs. And also on plus, more like, yeah, added to it is the idea that I can also be there wishing for him to have this need met. So that was in the exercise. I was like, like very, very profound. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. I'm so glad to hear that, because that's my experience too, that it really helps me to live Marshall's, what I think is Marshall's most profound advice, which is never hear what another person thinks of you. It's so easy to say, and it's kind of like a little mantra, and yet it's not easy for us to do because of the way we've been programmed and conditioned and educated. And so somehow I have the same experience of you as, and I even think I said it, I want to go back and maybe listen to the recording. What I intend to say when I do the exercise is breathe in pain, not their pain, but breathe in pain. And that way I'm not hearing their thoughts. As far as I can tell, with my limited capacity as a human being, I can only pay attention to one thing at a time. And if I'm paying attention to the other person's experience and with empathy, then I'm not able to hear their judgment. And so then I'm not going to take it personally, and I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. So I think that's why it helps me and why I like it. So thank Karimar for the support. Anybody else have a different experience you want to share? Yeah, Xenia.
Excuse me. I just wanted to say, I think that body felt sense of empathy is something that we can miss sometimes when we do NVC, because we're very much in the head and trying to tap into the feelings and the needs but a felt sense of empathy doesn't always even need words. I mean, they may be helpful because it helps us hone in on the needs. But, you know, when we were with, myself and Sylvie were with Jew, he didn't need the words. He just wanted the beingness of both of us there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it can be very powerful, but you need to I felt I needed to check in with myself when I was doing the exercise around, am I fully open to receiving, because I need to attend to my own pain if it's there, like exactly what you were talking about. Make sure I give what I need to myself first so I can, I'm open.
Yeah, I think it's right on that the zero step, you know, getting clear on the intention, and even another piece of the zero step that I didn't really mention is that might have been supportive for Jew, is to own who you are, to own your own boundary, to see, to claim your identity. And so that might be a part of that preparation work that might be supportive, especially in, you know, I know there's lots of empathy groups springing up around the world to support Ukrainians and Russians and other people affected by war. And so I want to support people in not getting burned out by doing that heavy duty listening, and to stretch our muscles on the easy stuff first before we dive into, I mean, I'm really impressed with Jews' willingness to do something like this every day of the week, you know, and to really want to own your boundaries and to be clear on making sure that you cultivate your own vitality and resilience. Thank you. Anybody else? Yeah, Lisa J.
I really appreciate it as a tool for me in not speaking. you mentioned that of how I can count to 1,000,000 and not start to speak, because I'm very verbal as a rule. And to shift my focus to doing this while I'm listening, I can't imagine what I would say back. So I appreciate that. It was also, this whole interaction happened in our imagination, but I think the catalyst in terms of a shift in imagining what was happening in the conversation was that imagining the need met for the person. And that was said before too, of somebody else who found that really meaningful and relaxing to imagine the need met. Because then as I went along in this imagination, the person relaxed because they felt they'd been heard and understood. And then there was more connection, and then there was more gratitude, and then there was actually love. And so I really appreciated the process of how that happened. And imagining the need met takes me away from the fixing perspective of how do I get their need met. Instead, I'm just going to imagine what it's like for them to have that need met.
Beautiful.
So I like that a lot.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
The other, I think the time when I first got this exercise, I was a very new NVC practitioner, like maybe a year old, like I said, when I learned this technique. And part of my nature is I'm an aggregator. I like pulling it. Like if I'm focusing on NVC and I'm reading something about positive psychology, I'll say, okay, so how does that apply to NVC? Okay, so then I read something about this ancient Buddhist practice. Where's the NVC in that? And so what I noticed with this one particular person who was on a team with me, we were on a planning team. We were planning Marshall's next workshop that was coming to New Mexico. And this is a person that wasn't always easy for me to be with. I had here I am, a pretty brand new NVC student, and all my judgments are coming up. And she one of my judgments is she talks too much. She's always angry about something, stuff never good enough for her. All these judgments are going through my head, but she's the one that's got the floor in the meeting. And rather than go off into judgment land, I just closed my eyes and I rode my breath with her feelings and needs. And then I felt so connected to her. By the end of that, maybe 10 to 15 minutes of her being heard, I didn't say a single word for that whole 15, nobody said a single word for that 10, 12, 15 minutes. And I never, ever experienced those judgments with her ever again. For years that we continued to connect. So it was somehow deeply healing for me to stay connected to feelings and needs rather than judgments. It was a profound lesson for me. Anybody else? Go ahead, Gonzalo.
A question. Do you think it would have worked as well if without the breath, just like almost as a mantra, saying the feelings and needs as you hear the person speak? Or do you think the breath is really important for the effectiveness of the technique?
I don't know. I think I'll try it. I like the idea.
I'll try
The
it.
thing I like about the breath is it so supports presence. And I have the breath hooked or anchored to compassionate giving and receiving. Because the way that I look at it, when I'm breathing in oxygen, I'm receiving the gift from all the plants in my yard. And when I'm breathing out carbon dioxide, I'm giving them what I don't need, but they need desperately. And so that's, I think, another reason why I like writing the breath, is because it is associated with compassionate giving and receiving.
Sounds really good.
But
I'll try the version without, because for me, the breath is usually a bit of a trigger. Like, I don't like exercises with the breath.
yeah,
So I'm going to explore that. I think it will still be helpful. So,
good. I'm looking.
yeah.
Maybe you'll give me some feedback next month after you try it for a while. And the next exercise we'll try in a minute doesn't use the breath at all. So it'll be interesting to see how you respond to that. So we have time, unless there's somebody else burning to say something. How about we move into the next two sections real quick? Anybody got anything you're burning to say? Okay. So we're not going to work with mourning today, because mourning takes a whole 2 hours for me to really even begin to explore mourning. So in the notes that I'll send you, that they'll go with the PowerPoint, or the whatever this is, keynote, then there'll be some links to some other classes that I've offered and that Angela Walkley offered about NVC style mourning, and then also some of the work of other folks that that really inspired Marshall in terms of how he held the idea of despair and how important despair is to really cultivating our own vitality. That if we try to whitewash over our pain, we will actually decrease our effectiveness as practitioners and as people who are have an aim to support other people with empathy and so forth. And so I had the opportunity once to be with Barbara Fredrickson on a phone call. She was sponsored by some positive psychology outfit to do like a webinar, and there was time at the end for questions, and I got to ask her the question, and I said, because of my NVC experience and my bias towards the power of mourning, I said, Barbara, do you consider sadness a positive emotion? And I love that it stopped her in her tracks. She says, nobody has ever asked me that before. I really want to think about that. I think I'm going to talk to some of my my graduate students about this, and maybe we can investigate that. So that really helped me to feel hopeful that we can relieve our allergy to pain, instead honor pain for the messages that it sends. So the next exercise that I do want to have time to experience is inspired by our being in Hawaii. And when we first came to Hawaii, I got the chance to study with a long-term NVC practitioner here, Janaya Marie Child, who's now a certification candidate. Even though she's been doing NVC about 5 years longer than me, she's still a candidate that I work with. It's craziness. But anyway, so thank you, Janaya, for introducing me to Ho'oponopono and how it relates to nonviolent communication. So Ho'oponopono is the Hawaiian word that means to move towards making things right, or to restore justice. This is the way that I would translate it into NVC. The HO part of a Hawaiian word is like, in English, it's like to go to the store, to this or to that. Pono means rightness or balance or something along those lines. And when it becomes doubled, like pono, then it's like really getting to the essential spiritual power of a particular activity or energy. And there's two ways the word ho'oponopono is used in Hawaiian culture. And if you don't know much about Hawaii, Hawaii is a branch of Polynesian culture. And the Hawaiians are kind of a mix of Tahitians and people from the another set of islands that starts with the letter M that just flashed through my brain and I can't remember it right now. But they intermingled, probably arriving in different streams of human colonization to Hawaii, which had never had a human being on it for 1,000,000 years, or however long Hawaii was here. And these two cultural Polynesian groups came together, and Hawaii existed for about 1,000 years before there was any interaction with white people or anybody else. If you look at the map, you'll see why. Hawaii is in the middle of nowhere. We're surrounded by the largest body of water in the known universe, which is the Pacific Ocean. And we're the closest landmass is the United States, which is 2,500 miles away. And so we're very isolated here. So Hawaii developed their own culture. And part of that culture was a restorative justice system that they borrowed from their own Polynesian roots. And so that's like a circle process, very similar to what you might learn in NBC with the restorative circles or other restorative justice practices. Then the new stream was created by this woman, Morna Simeona, back in the 60s or so. And it's much more of a self-empathy process. And because of her contribution, she was declared a living treasure of Hawaii, which I think is so touching. And she died maybe 10, 15 years ago, but her lineage continues. And I didn't learn directly from Morna. First, I learned from Janaya. And then I learned from one of her students, Ramsey Tom. Ho'oponopono is all over the internet. It's been all kinds of streams of Ho'opono because of the internet have gone all around the world, and there's music and so forth going with it now. But the essence of it is it's like a mantra, 4 sentences. I won't butcher the Hawaiian. I could say it, but I want to honor their language, and I'll stick with the English. But I wanted you to see what it looks like in Hawaiian. But the 4 sentences are: I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, and thank you. 2 things I want to say about the sentences before we practice is sometimes people present Ho'oponopono starting with I'm sorry. And I like starting with I love you. You can start anywhere you want. You could start with thank you. You could just say one of these sentences. One of the people that influenced me is Ilhaliakala Lu Hen. He just says I love you most of the time. He only goes to the other 3 sentences when he needs some extra support. The underlying idea of Ho'oponopono is that we're not separate, that all life is interdependent, and that if you are in pain, or you have an unmet need, or if you have any kind of agony, I'm co-responsible with you for your suffering. And so since I'm co-responsible with you, I can influence your healing by bringing my consciousness in alignment with what we call interdependence in NVC, the letting duality or separateness fall away. And so that's one thing I want to say about the sentences. The order is up to you. I like this order. Secondly, some people might get triggered in the NVC land because of how these sentences are formed. Hawaiian has the least number of letters of any other language, and so they have to get pretty creative about how they speak. There's no verb to be. So even though we say I'm sorry, that's not what it really says in Ekala Ma'iau. What it really means is I'm feeling sorrow. It's not about making myself wrong or doing anything. It's about acknowledging my own mourning or sadness. So you might need to do a little translation work with I'm sorry, because we kind of have an allergy in NVC about apology. I don't know exactly why. I mean, I do know why, but I don't think it's necessary. It's okay to be sorry. It's okay to feel sorrow. And so that's how I translate I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Traditionally, you would think that that meant, again, that I did something wrong and you have now the power of forgiving me. But that's not what hui kala mai iauke oloa oe means. It means, please see my humanity. Please see that I'm doing the best I can to contribute. And now I've had my behavior has had an impact on you that I don't enjoy, or the world has had an impact on you that I don't enjoy. And I want to take responsibility for that. And I would enjoy it if you would see my positive intention. So for me, this third sentence is about being seen for the gift that I'm trying to give. So you see how this relates to the NVC mourning process now, right? You start with 0 step of acknowledging our love for one another, or our connection, or our empathy, or however you want to put it. And then you feel sorry, you feel sorrow about the need that's not met by your behavior. And then you'd also like to maybe have some understanding about the need you were hoping to meet by your behavior. And so that's what's behind that third sentence. And then gratitude there at the end, that usually doesn't need to be translated. So the idea, if you want to practice, is we'll do it for about 5 minutes, is you just say the 4 sentences to yourself. That's all that you do. And as thoughts occur to you, like maybe a thought of a conflict that you're having, or if if something bothered you that you read in the news today, or anything like that, you just notice that and go back to the 4 sentences. That's all you have to do, is say the 4 sentences. So I'll just be quiet. And it's great if you translate it into your own language, to your native language. I think that would make it even more powerful. As in, I don't speak any other languages, so I don't really have any direct experience with that. So I'll just be quiet now for 5 minutes and we'll practice. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. As we start to transition back to our room here, we can do that orientation exercise if you'd like. Get grounded if you need to. And I would love to do a round and hear from everybody about what your experience is, not only of this exercise, but also anything else about the class that you haven't said yet. I'll just go on the order, the reverse order on my screen, just for variety. So I would like to start with Tracy and then go to Christina, if you're ready. Tracy, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I did that exercise, that last one, moving around with my eyes open, looking outside and doing it in kind of like a song. I love you. I'm sorry. And I was moving around because my body needed to move. And I enjoyed doing that. And yeah, that was Tracy's way. And I enjoyed the exercises, the refresher again from last time. Thank you. I'm complete.
You're welcome, Tracy. Christina, and then Majida, if you'd like to check out. Christina.
After a while doing the exercise, I felt connected with the other person in humanity. I was not expecting, but it was a very different sensation and profound. And is that? Thank you.
Thanks, Christina. I love taking that in, and I just noticed that my body just breathed in that appreciation from both of these first two shares. I just breathed it in and just enjoyed it, and then breathed out that sense of connection and mutual education, mutual support. I really enjoyed that. Majida and then Xenia.
I'll just say I really love this exercise. I love that it's spreading, and I actually did a whole Ho'oponopono thingy for my pre-certification, and that was before I ever had worked with you, Jim. So I love the shared discovery of it, and I find it so powerful and so regrounding in my intentions and my values. Thank you so much. Just delighted.
Thank you, Majida. Fun to hear that was part of your pre-certification journey. I really loved hearing. I never knew that. That's so much fun. Xenia, then Jen.
Yeah, I found it powerful. I always find that I'm familiar with it, and then I forget about this practice, and then when you brought it here, it's just such a reminder of our shared humanity. You know, when we say those words, it's sort of, you can't forget that, you know, we're all interconnected, and I have an impact on others have an impact on me, and you know, we're all doing the best we can, and it's that shared. I really feel that when I say those words. And also I noticed I said it for thinking of it for another, and also to myself, because we kind of make ourselves separate sometimes. Yeah, and that sort of, that was powerful as well. I found saying it to myself.
Oh, I love that.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you.
Beautiful. Wonderful. Thank you. Jen and then Sylvie.
Yeah, thank you. So Ho'oponopono practice, especially notice like, yeah, it coming up that I wanted to do it, like, yeah, like for myself even, and like that, like I guess regret or sorry or something for kind of always pushing or trying to force or saying where I'm at is not enough and not good enough and cut parts of me off and get skills to hide this and minimize that and diminish this. And yeah, and two, just noticing, yeah, I want to, like, I'm working to be able to trust myself and what I'm sensing and feeling, but when it comes down to feeling the ick stuff, I still don't, yeah, there's still this tendency of, no, I must be interpreting wrong. I'm safe. Like, look, I want to tell myself all the reasons. No, you're safe. Stop this. And yeah, so it's just a little confusing and I'm curious today, but it was good to be here. And just one other thing is I am half an hour before the class, I was so attentive. I am going to be here. I'm going to participate the force thing. I'm going to participate fully. I'm going to be here. I'm going to pay attention. Oh, and it did not take long for my body or something to say, oh no, it's not all in your control. So I'm glad I hung out anyhow. So thank you.
I'm glad you listened to your body, Jen, and thanks for sharing that. I appreciate that very much. Sylvie, then Lisa J. You're still on mute, Sylvie. Oh, there we go.
Sorry. I really enjoy this exercise. I know Ho'oponopono since 10 years, but sometimes we forgot. I forgot about it. And I really like the way you reframe for the traduction from the Hawaiian perspective. And it gave me another perspective. So I enjoyed it because the way you say, instead of saying, I'm sorry, I feel sorrow. And then the third phrase is, the third sentence is, please forgive me. But I said instead, please see my humanity, like the way I tried to meet my needs awkwardly. And I think it gives another meaning completely to those little four, not completely, but it gave me another perspective to stay close to my needs in the conflicts. So it gives me the perspective of being connected with the other one and stay close to the way I was trying to express my needs, even if it was awkwardly.
Beautiful.
So thank you for that.
You're welcome. Con mucho gusto. Lisa J, then Gonzalo.
Yeah, I wanted to second what Sylvie said. I really appreciated the reframing of the sentences. And I was able to take in the I'm feeling sorrow, and it was feeling sorrow that the other person's needs were not met. And I could feel that without any sense of personal responsibility of having to get them met. But the third one of please forgive me was more of a struggle. It was please see my good intentions or my disappointment that my contribution didn't result in your needs being met. But it still felt like guilt in there a little bit, or it still felt like responsibility for the other person's feelings. So I really struggled with that one, see my positive intentions, see that maybe we have a shared disappointment that your needs aren't met. So that one still was, I had to work with it a lot to make it not, I'm sorry I did something wrong, or I'm sorry that I'm not responsible, that I'm responsible for your needs being met and they're not. So I'm sorry because I did something wrong. So so that was my struggle, but I also understood that and this was said earlier by another participant, that sometimes when I get overwhelmed in hearing another person's feelings and needs, it's because I'm taking that responsible perspective. So the overwhelm is that I've done something wrong and therefore you're feeling this way and your needs are not met, or not doing, not wrong, but even inadequate or insufficient, or and so it was an insight to notice, if I'm getting overwhelmed by somebody's feelings, am I having those thoughts of responsibility for what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
And to so it was good. I was surprised 5 minutes had passed. I could have gone another 5 or 10 minutes, just trying to reconcile that third sentence into a workable way.
Cool.
But it was very helpful. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you. And just to acknowledge that the programming you touched about being responsible for other people's feelings is so deep in us. I wouldn't expect to make much of a dent on it in 5 minutes, but it's so totally understandable that we have it, because we've been told our whole life, you made me feel this, or it's your fault, or all the things that we've been told. And the way that I keep working with it is, every time I have that thought, I either ride the thought with Tong Lin, or I do some other mindfulness technique, or I do Ho'oponopono. Ho'oponopono is if nothing else works, this is where I go. You know, when I get overwhelmed with the war or COVID or any of the other 7 existential threats facing us, then I just go to Ho'oponopono, and that's the thing that soothes my nervous system best. So I'm not saying that this would work for everybody, but I am encouraging us all to try lots of different things until you find some kind of a go-to that can support resilience. So thanks, Lisa. Gonzalo, and then Eric, if you're available, and then Ju. Gonzalo.
I enjoyed it. It gave me a sense of peace. I did struggle a bit with the third one. Oh yeah, because I was doing it towards myself, like my inner child, and toddler Goni, as I usually call it. And I think I preferred to use please understand me, please understand, or something like that. It felt a bit less constricted for me. So yeah, but I really like it. I'm going to play with it.
Good.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. And by the way, it's a wonderful exercise to do in practice groups, to introduce the 4 sentences, especially with people that have been taking some basic NVC training somewhere, and then just set them loose to translate it into their own words, to find out the language that works for them so that they can say it with integrity. Because I would never want anybody to try to program yourself that you're sorry. If that's not your authentic experience, then find a way to say it. And same with please forgive me, or even I love you. I've actually had people when I've taught this in workshops, they get stuck on all 4 sentences. People have reported getting stuck on any of them and needing translation. So I'm all in favor of translation and transformation. Thank you. Eric, and then we'll finish with Ju.
Yeah, I love this. When Abigail did the song in rounds at our IIT 3 years ago, I completely fell apart, cracked open like an egg, and then you did a seminar on it. So I used it every day for days and weeks after the IIT, and I honestly had completely forgotten about it. So thank you for bringing it back into my. It really opens up stuff inside of me even now thinking about it. So thank you, Jim.
You're very, very welcome. Yeah, Eric is talking about a song. I'll put the link in the chat while in just a minute because we played the song almost constantly during the IIT, and it's in my head even right now. I mean, I've been working with this for a month now. It's very deep in me right now. So go ahead, Ju.
Yeah, I just want to say that Eric, before you were in a room, and it looked to me like you were arrested in the airport, and you were like with the luggage or something like this. I'm relieved that you are in like a safe space now, and and today I have like the critic bug inside of me, and like it was difficult for me to do this exercise because I followed your suggestion, Jim, do it in your mother tongue, and in Portuguese. I am sorry and thank you, they are really heavy words for me, because actually the translation means, thank you means I am obliging myself, literally, and sorry means take the guilt away from me. And I had to do, oh my God, how am I going to use this now? And then I, like for I'm sorry, take the guilt away from me. I had to make a whole monologue, like take the guilt away from me, because all that I am doing all the time is simply trying to meet my needs, just like you. And then, yeah, that was my big struggle. And then but I managed in the end. And this Ho'oponopono reminded me of Marshall's saying that everything human beings say all the time is please and thank you. And that resonated very strong within me. And it was beautiful. I'm complete. Thank you.
Oh, maybe we just shortcut Ho'oponopono to 2 sentences. Please and thank you. Maybe that's enough. Might try that. Yeah, beautiful. All right. Well, we're coming to the top of the hour. I really enjoyed being with you today. And I feel like I learned stuff for sure. There's no doubt that I learned things, and I'm looking forward to integrating them into future trainings. That's what I love about these classes with other experienced trainers in NVC and other traditions. So thank you all for your contributions to my learning and my well-being. And next month we will work with self-assessment. Both the pitfalls of self-assessment and the promise of self-assessment. And looking forward to exploring that with you. And unless there's anything else that anybody wants to say, we're finished. Okay, aloha.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. And I'll stick on the call for just a minute, Gonzalo, to connect with you.
Yeah, and the other members of the pod, if